this is Janet Diane Moya Swerdlow for expansions.com. I have another edition of Healthy Living for you. Today we are going to do a very simplified version of eggplant parmesan because, as you know, I like everything simple. So over here I have a 9x12 baking dish, and I have some prepared already Monte Bene tomato basil pasta sauce. And you can make your own, which is very easy, or you can just get some. Just be sure you watch for your ingredients. You can see it's a very light layer over the bottom, and this is a very clean one. It only has in tomatoes, onions, olive oil, salt, basil, white pepper, and black pepper. So it's a very clean sauce. And here I have already put in about a ½ inch of my olive oil. I'm going to start heating that on high. And then we're going to use 3 eggplants. And you can use as many eggplants as you want. You can make it as thick or as thin as you want. But this is just the basic way to do it. So what I do is I've already soaked this in my hydrogen peroxide bath, so it does discolor it a little bit. Just going to cut off the end, and then I cut off the tail end. You don't need to take off too much. And then you just use your potato peeler and you take the skin off. Now a lot of people have told me that they soak their eggplant in sea salt and a variety of things so it's not bitter. And I've been doing this for many, many years. I've never done that, and I've never had anybody tell me that my eggplant is bitter. So I am just going to peel it and slice it and cook it, because to me that's the easiest way to do it. And as I said, I have not had any issues. But do whatever you want to do if you have different experiences with eggplant. And of course I like to do different recipes. Now I have shown you in the past how to do baba ganoush, which is an eggplant dip, and that's very easy to do and very low carb. So check that out on YouTube if you're interested, and a nice healthy eggplant dip. So anyway, it just takes a minute. I'm doing 3. I've already done the other 2 in advance, but I just want to show you how easy it is. And then I'll get rid of this. Now you can do it with the peeling if you want. However, the reason I don't is the peeling is a little bit tough, but you know, whatever works for you. I usually slice about 1/4 inch thick, so it's kind of thin. But again, you can make your slices as thick or as thin as you want. There are no steadfast rules, just what your own personal preferences are. And it's really easy, but it is a bit of a mess because of the frying. So I will tell you that in advance. But it's not difficult. Okay, so I've got my eggplant sliced. And I'm going to bring these over, and as I said, they're a bit discolored because they've been in the hydrogen peroxide bath and then they've been sitting in the air, but they're fine. Different sizes. And this is my crumbs. I use Italian gluten-free breadcrumbs, and I have them in a bowl here already, and I mix in about 1 teaspoon of salt. Now they're already seasoned. You can add seasonings if you like. I just like to put in the salt. But of course with eggplant parmesan it has cheese, and cheese a little bit more. Cheese is already salty, so, and there's a little bit of salt in the tomato sauce that I'm using, the marinara sauce. So I'm going to just take this and I'm just going to put it into the crumbs. Now some people dip it in milk or egg and then do crumbs back and forth, but I like mine not so heavily breaded, and for me this is what works, but you can do whatever works for you. And I'm going to put in the oil, and then once it starts to bubble and fry, then I know that it's okay to add the others. But in the meantime I'm going to get a few more ready to go. So it's starting. Of course you can adjust the heat on your oil depending upon what you need to do. And I put in a variety of sizes. And when you want to make your eggplant very soft before you take it out of the pan, and again, personal preference, but that's what I like, so that's what I'm telling you. It is kind of crunchy the way that it is right now. And I want to make it a little bit on the softer side. What I usually try to do is put my larger pieces in first and then fill in with the smaller pieces around the side if I can. Let's see. And then once I get my frying pan filled, some more, and they'll shrink up a little bit, so you can kind of work with it as you go. Once you get your frying pan filled, then you can continue to bread a few more, just so that as you take them out of there, you can keep your oil hot, and then you can put some others in there. Alright, now over here I have a cookie sheet. You can see I've put several layers of paper towels, because when it comes out of the pan, it's got to be drained. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. Then once it's drained, then I'm going to start layering it in over here in the tomato sauce. So I'm just going to take 2 or 3 here and start covering them with crumbs. Just so I have something to start with. You can use a plate, you know, like I said, whatever works for you. I've done this for a lot of years and I have my way of doing it. I'm sure you'll develop your own way. And whatever works for you, well, that's the correct way, in my opinion. Make it easy for yourself. So let's just let this sit. And then I use tongs. So I'm just going to press them around. You can see they're starting to brown a little bit. And once they get a little brown on the other side, I'll flip them in just a minute here. You can see they're shrinking up. So if I have a smaller one, I'll stick it in there, because in the beginning it'll seem like, wow, this is easy, but if you're frying 3, maybe you decide to do more, you want to use your space, because you're going to get tired of standing here and frying, that much I can tell you. And you can see I have it on a pretty good heat. It's on high. But of course, once everything gets hot all the way through, then you may want to adjust your heat down just a little bit, because you don't want to burn it. Unless that's the way you like it. And some people do. They like it a little browner than others. I like mine more golden brown. But different people like theirs different ways, and that's why you experiment. And there really is no right or wrong. Just how you like it. It's starting to get a little brown again. It's starting to get a little brown on the back side, so I'm going to flip this over. Start doing a little flipping. Here, you can see how they're starting to get soft, but I want them really soft before I put them in. I'm going to turn my heat down just a little bit. And it doesn't matter, sometimes I flip them 3 or 4 times before I decide that's the way I like them, so you just kind of have to experiment for what's going to work with you and your cooking style. And your stove, your heat, your pans, all those things make a difference. This is also basically the way I make my green tomato pie. Some of you may have watched that recipe. This is basically the same, except I usually put them in between paper towels and get the some of the water out first. Before I fry it, I just put it into my crumbs and away you go. So it's pretty easy. Mine is going to be basic, just sauce and cheese, but you can add sausage. You can add meat of any kind if you want. You can add a variety of cheeses. Some people like to put in some ricotta. And sometimes these are really good just right out of the pan like they are. Sometimes I eat them a couple slices like that while I'm cooking, depending on my mood. But you can see how it's getting very, very soft. But they do have a lot of oil, and that's why we're going to drain them before we put them into the pan. And we just kind of layer it like lasagna. So like I said, it's a pretty easy recipe. It just takes a little bit of time because of the frying. It can be a little bit messy because of the oil. So, I do this on days that I have a little bit extra time that I'm going to cool, because I know it's going to be a little bit longer. Just not going to slice it up and put it in the pan. And of course, there's a lot of the crumbs that will fall off into the pan, and you want to be careful that those don't catch on fire and burn as well. So I think we're close to the way I like them. So I'm going to start pulling them out. And I'm just going to do a couple and then replace a couple, but you can see they're pretty soft. I'm going to put a couple in as I go, because otherwise the oil is going to get too hot on what's left behind. That will cool my oil down, so I kind of play with my heat on my stove back and forth. Big ones here while I have the space. Let's see, you see my oil's cooling a bit, the bubbles are going down. I don't know if you can tell, so I'm just going to turn the heat up just a bit. These guys out. And we'll get two more guys in. And I'll kind of push it into the crumbs a little bit. It will stick better if you use milk or egg. I've done it both ways. I've done it a variety of ways. As I said, I don't like too much breading, so this works for me. Let's put a couple more in there. Okay, now while these are frying, I can get another one. Find a small piece. Okay, while these are frying, I'm going to take these. Now, you can see I just kind of made a light layer of the tomato sauce, and I'm just going to start putting these in here. These are hot still. I'm smearing my tomato sauce around as I go. But usually what I do is I put the bigger ones in when I have them, and I kind of fill in. So I'm going to leave the smaller ones. I get some more of the larger ones out of the pan. Okay, we're coming to the end of everything here. Forgot that little guy, so I put him on. And the other thing I forgot to tell you is that as you fry, you're going to need to add more oil, because of course the crumbs soak up the oil that's already in the pan. And then what I do when I'm all done, after my oil is cooled, or sometimes before if I'm in a hurry, is I find a jar, I put it in the jar, and then the crumbs will sink down to the bottom. And then what's left floating on the top, I reuse that oil. Now, not everybody thinks you should reuse oil. I do. So again, go with what you feel is right for you. And the other thing I've done is I've kind of stacked the eggplant over here. Usually I will make it as I go after it's soaked off on the paper towels a little bit. I just go ahead and build it, but I wanted to show you all at once, so that's why I've kind of done it this way this time. So you can see how soft these are. When I pick them up, they squish. So everything is, like I said, nice and soft. Now I have my oven preheating at 350, because once I put it together, then I bake it for 15-20 minutes. Really, it's just to kind of melt the cheese and everything all together. So this is almost done. And this one little guy that was my last one, it's not quite as brown as I like it, but I'm going to take him off so we can move along. So let me move this off. Turn off my oven now. You can, or my stove top. You can see that, like I said, the oil does make a bit of a mess. So move this over here. This out of the way. Here's our pan. So I'm going to look for some of the little bigger ones for down on the bottom, and then fill in. Okay, now what I do is I take a layer of cheese, and again, you can use any kind of cheese you want. I use the mozzarella. I like to get the pre-sliced, although I've done, grated it before, and I've done a variety of things, but for me this is easy. And I told you I was going to show you how to do it easily. I don't like the pre-grated cheese because of what they put in to keep the cheese separated. Sometimes they put in, I've heard of wood fillers and things like that, so I really am not a fan of the pre-grated cheese. Okay, so then I do another layer of the eggplant on top. I'm going to go again for finding some of the larger pieces if I can. This is a smaller one. Sometimes eggplant pieces can be really big. So put it together. So like I said, for the bigger ones, that's where we're going if I can find them. Oh, there's a big one. And a little one. Alright. So now I just put on another layer of sauce. And during the cooking process it kind of melds all together, so again you can put on as thick or as thin as you want. And then I just do another layer of the eggplant. Those are smaller pieces, so just put her on. You can see it's pretty fast and easy to assemble. And as I said, if you want to put other things in here, you can. Sausage, meats of any kind. I have done things like fried up some onions, some garlic. It's a variety of things you can do to make it interesting for you. Okay. I'm going to leave a couple little guys out because I'm going to eat those later dipped in sauce. Oh, here's the one I didn't quite finish. Put that there too. And then cheese. Now if you want, you can put more sauce on it. Put just a hair. I don't want too much. Just a hair. And then they'll top it with cheese. Sometimes if I have the Parmigiano-Reggiano, put that on there. Just like I said, depends on what I feel like for the day, what I have on hand, what makes it easy for me. And if you're going to get the pre-sliced cheese, or what I had the deli cut it for me actually, but I usually get a pound. If you're going to use more than 3 eggplants, you might want 1.5 pounds, because you're going to have a little bit thicker eggplant dish here. And that's basically it. I've got my oven heating at 350. I'm going to pop it in and then we'll see how nice it is when it comes out. I just pulled this out of the oven. It's nice and hot. You just have to cut it into serving pieces. So I usually do maybe about 8. And I made a mistake on the type of cheese. I was looking on my package. It's Pecorino Romano. That's what I like to put on the top. So it's up to you what you like to use. But anyway, you just cut it into your individual portions and you serve it. And it's really wonderful. So I'm going to put in a few sausages to go with it. That's the way Stewart likes it. So lots of good things going on. So anyway, I want you to enjoy eggplant parmesan. It's very simple and easy, just a little bit messy. Just keep that in mind. So with that said, thank you for joining me. Janet Diane Moria, SwerdlowExpansions.com.